I watched her documentary before she ever became big. I think I seen it on PBS, on Channel 13. You could tell she was a rough. She had anger problems. She was not ladylike. She was nigga boy, tomboy. Nah, and she, nigga, she went through the process and corrected what needed to be corrected to represent what a champ is. She ain't no Layla Ali. None of our new youth are what our old stars used to be. They got their own mind, they got their own identity. So nah, man, homie, they picking on Claressa, and can't nobody whoop her. So
get ready, because this isn't gossip, a wild take, or internet drama. This is the moment when the whole story starts to fall apart. When Charleston White finally spoke, he didn't yell or chase attention. He revealed things by staying calm, and that made his words even louder. What people once thought was loyalty suddenly felt like a quiet confession. For years, the public was shown a perfect image. A fearless champion, powerful couple, a success story built on love, fame, and applause. Everything looked polished and untouchable. But Charleston White asked a question no one else wanted to face. What if it was never about love? What if it was all planned? What if the image mattered more than honesty? He didn't insult anyone or throw accusations around. Instead, he connected the dots. He reminded people that Claressa Shields didn't start out as a clean, media-friendly star. She was intense, emotional, and real. Over time, she wasn't just trained to win fights. She was shaped into a brand that couldn't afford mistakes or uncomfortable questions. That's where the story takes a darker turn. While the spotlight stayed on boxing wins, control was quietly growing behind the scenes. Money, image, influence, and silence all played a role. The person beside her wasn't just a partner, but a gatekeeper. And that silence, it wasn't accidental, it was planned. Charleston White didn't need to accuse anyone. He let the pattern speak for itself. And suddenly, what once looked like romance began to feel more like a business deal. Because real love doesn't need this much control. It doesn't demand this level of silence. And it never feels like a contract waiting to expire. From this point forward, nothing about Claressa Shields and Papoose looks the same.
So Claressa Shields wants to have babies with Papoose while he's still married to Remy.
They gonna look like African kids, Ugandan babies. Yeah. They ain't gonna know if them babies Nigerian, Jamaican, or Haitian. But they gonna have some pretty chocolate skin. Don't know if their hair gonna be too straight or wavy. They may have African hair. But they sure gonna be nigga kids. Yeah. They gonna be some smart kids that know how to fight.
What made this moment feel so disturbing wasn't how loud Charleston White spoke. It was how calm and exact he was. He didn't sound like someone trying to win an argument. He sounded like someone reminding people of details they had chosen to ignore for a long time. This wasn't an angry speech or a wild rant. It was a reset of the story. And once that reset happened, the image surrounding Charleston White, Claressa Shields, and Papoose slowly began to fall apart. Charleston never questioned Claressa's ability in the ring. He respected her skill and discipline. What he challenged was the system built around her success. He didn't deny her greatness. Instead, he asked how tightly that greatness had been guarded. In his view, the real danger in celebrity culture isn't failure. It's protection so strong that no one is allowed to ask questions. When someone becomes untouchable, control quietly takes over. He pointed out something many fans overlooked. Claressa's rise wasn't only about strength and hard work. It also involved careful polishing, image shaping, and story control. Not because she lacked talent, but because the brand tied to her name couldn't afford surprises. The public saw confidence and dominance. What they didn't see was insulation. Risks were managed quietly. Fights were chosen wisely. Her public image looked raw, yet every move was calculated. Then Charleston shifted attention away from the ring and toward the people standing nearby. The ones close enough to manage access, influence opinions, and control silence. That's where Papoose came into focus. Not as a romantic hero, but as a steady presence in the background. Always calm, never loud, always there yet never demanding attention. Charleston didn't say Papoose controlled Claressa. He described something more layered. A situation where protection and dependence begin to mix. Where the person blocking criticism also decides which voices are heard. In those moments, silence isn't accidental. It becomes policy. That's when a relationship starts to look less like love and more like alignment. He suggested this bond wasn't emotional. It was practical. Claressa needed stability, credibility, and distance from chaos. Papoose needed relevance, closeness to influence, and visibility again. Together, they didn't just appear strong. They appeared safe. And in an industry driven by image, safety has real value. This is where Remy Ma quietly re-enters the picture. Not through noise but through absence. Charleston framed that absence as incompatibility with control. Remy was never someone who stayed silent. She challenged stories and pushed back. She didn't fit into a system that required compliance. And when a system can't manage a variable, it removes it. Charleston didn't accuse anyone of planning anything. He simply described patterns. How some voices rise while others disappear. How narratives change not because facts shift but because usefulness does. And in this version of events, Claressa wasn't only a fighter. She became an asset, an image that had to be protected at all costs. Then he addressed the question everyone kept asking online. Why Papoose stayed quiet. Why he never defended himself loudly. Why former partners didn't attack him publicly. And that's when Charleston delivered the line that made everything suddenly feel different.
Yeah, that nigga Papoose. And this is why I say that. You ain't never heard no hoe come out and say nothing bad about him first. Even when this hoe was doing wrong, he wasn't running to the internet bashing him. And he don't speak much. He's a man of silence, so that means his words are important to him. I done seen him get with 2 women, and it seemed like he brought the best out of both women. Yeah, I don't know too many niggas that go hold their girl down when they go to jail.
That silence was never presented as innocence. Charleston White framed it as discipline. And discipline, he suggested, is often confused with good character. When someone never reacts in public, people assume there is nothing to explain. In reality, it can mean they understand restraint better than anyone else around them. Knowing when not to speak can be just as powerful as speaking at the right moment. From there, the conversation took a heavier turn. Charleston began talking about what happens when a career reaches its peak, but a person's identity stops growing. When public attention fades, being close to power can become the quickest way back into relevance. He didn't say Papoose used Claressa. Instead, he said opportunity tends to appear for those prepared to receive it. When 2 needs meet, security on one side and access on the other, people often label it love because that sounds kinder than strategy. He explained that Claressa's world had slowly shifted. Boxing mattered less. Image mattered more. Risk became something to avoid, while preservation took priority. In that type of environment, anyone who questioned the direction wasn't just disagreeing, they were threatening the structure holding everything together. Charleston also criticized the industry itself. He questioned why voices that normally support empowerment suddenly went quiet when accountability was needed. Why media repeated safe stories and dismissed criticism as jealousy. To him, silence on that scale isn't neutrality. It's cooperation. As he continued, a clear pattern emerged. Control doesn't arrive loudly. It settles in quietly. It hides behind protection, loyalty, and care until the person at the center can no longer tell where their freedom ends and the system begins. He made one of his most uncomfortable points when discussing physical damage. Repeated injuries create vulnerability. Vulnerability creates dependence. And dependence makes certain relationships profitable. The people closest to you become essential, not because they lift you up, but because you can't imagine functioning without them. Charleston wasn't describing villains. He was describing incentives. This wasn't just about specific people. It was about how modern public relationships often function like contracts. Who brings value? Who controls access? Who absorbs risk? And who gets replaced when the balance changes? He ended by reframing everything. This wasn't a love story falling apart. It was an arrangement working exactly as designed until it neared its expiration. When relationships are built on usefulness instead of trust, the collapse isn't dramatic. It's procedural, and the truth doesn't explode. It leaks slowly and quietly, until no amount of branding, silence, or image control can hold it back.
She also makes more money than him, similar to Remy Ma. So would you consider him a gold digger?
No. A player ain't never been a gold digger. That nigga's a player. Nigga, that smooth player, nigga. Now, man, now, you always supposed to play for the bank. My grandmama told me, if a woman really like you, it ain't nothing she won't do for you. Well, grandmama, how you know if she really like you? She'll give you her money.
That statement didn't land gently because it changed how generosity was being viewed. Charleston White wasn't calling money a tool of manipulation. He framed it as confirmation. His point wasn't that love can be bought. It was that affection often shows itself through shared resources. When someone can use what you have without resistance, it reveals the balance of power, whether people want to face that truth or not. From there, he zoomed out even further. Charleston argued that the public's focus on who earns more completely misses the real issue. The question isn't income. It's authority. Who controls the narrative? Who decides when silence is the smart move? Who chooses when to respond and when to vanish? In that setup, silence becomes valuable. It isn't weakness. It's strategy. Loud voices attract conflict. Quiet ones maintain control. In an industry obsessed with drama, the person who rarely reacts often stays the safest, simply because there's nothing to attack. This is where Remy Ma returned to the discussion, not emotionally, but structurally. Charleston suggested she represented unpredictability. She spoke openly. She didn't soften conflict to protect appearances. And in systems built on image control, unpredictability becomes a risk. When the story moved away from her, it wasn't about heartbreak. It was about removing uncertainty. Clean stories are easier to manage. Controlled relationships are easier to defend. When critics speak up, they're quickly labeled bitter or jealous, not because of a plan, but because culture does it automatically. One of the most chilling ideas Charleston raised was about timing. Relationships built on usefulness don't collapse in dramatic scandals. They fade quietly. When value shifts, when protection stops working, when access is no longer needed, silence begins to crack. And when it cracks, truth doesn't explode. It leaks. Small inconsistencies appear. Stories stop matching behavior. Loyalty starts looking like obligation instead of devotion. He also tied this back to physical cost. Repeated fights and injuries don't just damage the body. They wear down resistance. Pain narrows focus. Exhaustion makes stability feel more important than freedom. In that state, dependence feels reasonable. Someone else handling the noise feels like relief. That's how systems survive. Not through force, but through comfort. Charleston wasn't calling anyone evil. He was explaining incentives. This wasn't just about a few celebrities. It was about how modern public relationships often function like contracts. Who brings value? Who controls access? Who absorbs pressure? And who becomes replaceable when conditions change? He reframed marriage itself in a way that made many uncomfortable. Not as fantasy, but as structure. Not as emotion alone, but as responsibility. He argued that relationships built only on feelings collapse when emotions shift. Those built with planning and shared accountability last longer. The irony, he suggested, is that many people reject the idea of contracts while living inside arrangements that operate exactly like one, just without honesty. By the end, Charleston wasn't predicting a dramatic downfall. He was describing inevitability. When a relationship is built on alignment instead of truth, it can't survive change. If relevance shifts, if money shifts, if the story shifts, the bond doesn't adjust. It dissolves quietly. His final warning wasn't angry. It was clear. Silence only works while people believe it means something noble. Once that belief fades, everything built on image starts to shake. And when the truth no longer needs permission, it finds its way out on its own.